So the last thing I want to show you today, and this is by far the most complicated thing, is actually to make uh, classes and objects. So what we have done so far is actually to just use functions, which are kind of these small macros. We have a little function down here, and then we have a list up here of trees, tree positions, and then we have a for loop here that runs through the tree positions. But you can actually start to group things together and make classes. So we have so instead of just working with code and having a macro doing something and having just pulling from a list, we can actually define something. So think of this as, I have a car, my car is a Toyota, and it's a specific car I have. My car is a physical object of a car. But there's also the concept of a car. A car is a concept, and a car has wheels and doors and maximum speed and all these things. So we have a classification of different elements that consist of a car. It can drive, which speed is running at right now and all these things. And then there we have the concrete object of a car, which is then has some specific elements. So maybe my car, my object of a car is running at 100 kilometers an hour, and my friend's car at the same time is running at 50 kilometers an hour. So there's two different objects, but they're using the same classification, which is the concept of a car with a speed. So classifying things is actually the way to stay sane when you program, because you can then make a classification of something. So instead of just some an ellipsis drawing a tree and we call it a tree, then you can make a classification of a tree. And by having this classification, you can make multiple trees and place them in different places. So right now we're just kind of hacking it together and generating the trees visually, but we can also conceptually have a classification of what a tree is. So that is what I want to do now, is actually to go into the concept of what is a tree. So to do that, I need to classify a tree. And in our case, a tree is actually a very few things. It's actually a few kind of basic things. So first of all, I'm going to do classification, so class, and call it tree. So this is a classification of a tree. And then I'm going to actually include the function we already made, which was draw tree, inside the classification. So draw tree, the function draw tree, is now a part of the tree. So when you need to draw the tree, you will use the classification tree. Further, I need to actually make a constructor, and a constructor is what constructs the tree. So when you have a tree, when you have a classification of a car, and then you say I want to make a car, then you need something to construct the car, and in this case it's a constructor that constructs the car, hence creating the object of it. So in this case, the constructor has two parameters. It has the position of the tree, the current tree, the tree it's going to construct. And then it's going to tell the class tree, or the object it's generating, it's going to say, all right, you have an x variable and you have a y variable. And these two are the parameters that you get when you construct a tree. Further down here, we're actually not going to do this, because now actually draw tree is going to pull the information of where to draw it from the object itself that the constructor has made. So down in draw tree, we're going to say this x, this x, this x, this x. And then we also have actually a size tree head. Remember, that was kind of one of the parameters. So we should definitely define that inside it. So that's a part of the tree to the size of the tree head. So the size tree head is also going to be defined by the constructor. So this dot size tree head is equal to 130. We're just going to give it a number now. Actually, it would be fun to give it as a parameter. So we're going to do like that and add another parameter called size and say, okay, it's going to kind of construct a size tree head variable. So now we have a tree classification, but we still need to kind of change the way we do this stuff up here, because right now it's just a list of some x and y positions, but we want it to be a list of trees. And the way we do that is actually to go in here, and actually where we have the push, we're going to say we want a new tree. We want to create a tree. So new says construct a tree for me. And new calls this classification tree and say, okay, construct a tree for me. So it calls this guy here. So we need to give it some parameters for it to work. So first of all, we have the x and y position. What was it? 100 and I don't remember. And then the size, we're gonna give 40, for example. So now we have generated a tree. We actually says, create a new tree, put it into the list of trees. So this one that's called tree positions should just be called trees now. So it's just trees. And then the last part we need to do is actually to jump down here and run through the for loop of where we draw all the trees and then use the trees, the tree list for it. So here we're gonna say trees.draw trees, and then we're gonna go into the list and get each one of them and call the draw tree. So what is gonna go here? Size tree head, it's confused about this. So this is because we need to write this here and this here for size tree head to work. So now we actually have our tree. We need to do this and this here as well. So now we have our tree, and the size is kind of tiny. What parameter? Oh, I gave it 40. Let's do 120. All right, so that was pretty fast, and maybe even a bit too fast, because this is also quite advanced and there's quite a lot of concepts coming in here. And I mean, go through the video a couple of times. I want to reiterate a few things. The new tree thing I actually want to reiterate. So if we simplify the code a little bit, we can actually comment out the thing that runs through all the trees and the new tree here. So we still have a classification of a tree, but we're not using it. It's still down here. We have the tree, but we are not using it. And now I'm just going to show you how we can create one single new tree. So what I can do is I can say, I can make here, instead of having trees as a list of trees, I can make one tree. I can call it my tree. And then say like that. And then I can say, oh, actually, I want to just do it here. My tree is equals to new tree. And then I want the numbers we have here of the position right here. So now we say my tree is equal to new tree. And now we can actually go down here and draw it. So where we have the grass and then we draw my tree. So we say draw. Does it say draw tree? It does. It should actually say draw, just draw, because it's only drawing. It is inside the tree. And then when I run it here, it's gonna draw it, and it's not because it says draw of undefined. Why is this undefined? What did I do? Draw tree. Now I'm going back just to make sure that was not the problem. Oh, there's an error up here. Okay, there's something here. I cannot do it here apparently, so I have to kind of do it in the setup. My tree equals new tree. Okay, so now we have a tree. So it's my tree, and then here I define it up in the top, but I need to add it down here as a new tree. And then down here I say draw tree, and that's where I just want to say draw, because I want it to, it's redundant to say my tree.draw tree. It's fine to say my tree.draw in this case. It just looks better. So my tree dot, and this dot then refers to the function inside the tree dot draw here, draws the tree based on the information we gave when we constructed it. So the position is defined up here when we constructed it. So if I want it further to the right, I need to say 150 and then run it, and then it will move a little bit to the right. And if I want the size of the head to be huge, I can do that as well. I can define that here. So this creates a new tree that is then my tree. So I can, like the same way we have a car, and then there's my car, my personal car with some specifications. Then that is basically what we're doing here. And then again, that is then what we add to the list. So we have our tree list up here, trees. So instead of having my tree, we can have a list of trees, and I'm gonna remove it down here, add the for loop, and then remember we changed this to draw instead of draw tree, so I'm gonna change that. And then I can add this tree to the list of trees. So we're gonna copy paste this in here. Boom, boom. and remove this. So now we have added one tree to our list, and now we can start adding a lot of trees to our list. Let's make some trees. So this one is at 100, and this one is at 200, and this one is at 100 and 200. Let's see, and that one here is 250. I'm just randomly putting numbers in here, and one is smaller. So this is boring. We need to space it out a little bit. So we're gonna add something. So suddenly now we start to have different trees here, and I'm not doing a good job of deciding where to place them. But you see what's going on. We are basically generating a lot of trees here. Maybe we need the heads to be a little bit smaller to actually understand how it goes on. And clearly there's something about order here. Clearly this is confusing, so we might want to kind of switch that around and kind of move it around the order of which we are doing it. So the question is, which one is that? So that was not it. We can actually see it because it has pretty far over and pretty far down. This is the guy. So this guy needs to be in front, which means add it to the last, and then suddenly now it looks a little bit better. And the head of this one is a little bit small, so forth and so forth. So we're actually just building up our tree structure here. So, this is complicated, and it's complex to actually handle this stuff and build it up. But I hope I gave you a sense of how you can structure it. So this is actually starting to look like a quite nice structure. We could make a small functions here, a function called draw grass, you know, just to kind of simplify it a little bit. So we can say draw grass, and then the sun, and maybe the sun and grass, and you know, maybe it's the backdrop, you know, backdrop here, backdrop, draw backdrop, and then you know, it's actually kind of pretty well structured program where in the draw we have a draw, and then we have some background rules there, and then we have the backdrop being drawn, and then we draw the trees, and the trees is actually a classification down here. So when you do complex things and you want to stay sane, quite often it's very, very nice to actually do this and actually structure it properly from the beginning, instead of kind of make this tangled thing in draw with 200 lines and you're confused of what's going on. It's actually quite nice to have some lists and define some objects like tree and say, okay, we have a classification of this type of object, which is a tree, and then we can kind of replicate that tree. All right, I think this is plenty for now, and I hope you got something out of it, and I also see it as a kind of repeat thing where you can go through it multiple times and learn more about it. Thank you for now, and also I want to add that I'm going to add more videos, so there's also going to be something about Pong, and look around on the page and see the other things that are at play there as well.